Hey everybody, welcome to the 1947 Rise podcast, a podcast that helps India-born, US-trained Indians get integrated into the Indian technology ecosystem and inspires them to move back to India to build massive tech companies and or help enable the tech ecosystem. We do this by interviewing India-born, US-trained Indians who have moved back to India and built massive tech companies themselves and or helped enable the tech ecosystem.
Tejeshwi, I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Shiva, for having me here. I'm glad to be here.
And I'm excited to get this going. As you can, see on my face, it's there. And let's start by talking about your background. Tell us your story up until now.
Sure. I was, born and brought up in India. Born in a small city called Patna, far east from here, and I studied in Patna before I went to IIT Delhi for my undergrad. And I spent the next 6 years of my life in Delhi, 4 years at IIT, and then the next 2 years working with the consulting firm Bain and Company. And while I was at Bain, this is 2010, so tech was not a thing back then. And while I was working at Bain, I got again incidentally. I think I'm a big believer of serendipity, by the way. So I got staffed on a private equity case. So a bunch of private equity firms were looking to buy an IT services company out. So I somehow got staffed onto that case, and that was my first flavor of tech and tech investing, most importantly. And I quite liked it, although the work was quite intense. They would make you work like 18 hours every day, but it was a lot of fun. We had a good team, and I quite liked what we were doing. And that went on for a few months, and I got staffed on another identical case, and that's how it began, and that piqued an interest in investing. So I would come back from work and keep exploring about and reading about investment firms. And at that time, Sequoia had probably just launched this analyst program, and somehow one of my friends landed there, Ishan, who's my partner here at Sequoia now, and I got an interview, and I ended up at Sequoia. This is 2012. At that time, let me tell you, tech was not a thing. Like India probably had 50 million internet users, maybe close to 100. And the entire year, I remember 4 or 5 of us looked at one company that was called redbus.com. And of course, that company did very well, got acquired by Naspers, and then and eventually by Make My Trip. And now I hear it's doing very well. But yeah, the tech density in the country and just the number of opportunities were far and few between. So I did that till 2015. And in 2015, I was just lucky to get into Stanford for an MBA program. And I always wanted to live in the Bay Area, and just because Bay Area is, at least to me back then, is for a young starry-eyed boy, I think it was a mecca of innovation, place where all the magic was happening. So I wanted to live there, right in the heart of the Bay Area. And I made that decision to leave Sequoia and go to Stanford for an MBA. And that was, in hindsight, one of the best decisions I've made, because I learned so much, and it reflects in every aspect of who I am today. My learnings from Stanford, my learnings from the US, and post-graduation. So actually, interestingly, again, I think my entire life is just a series of serendipities. So in 2016, Tencent was looking to ramp up their India investment team, and they had made a couple of investments. They just tested waters with the India market, but they wanted to augment their team, and they were looking for somebody who could run that. So I got an internship at Tencent, and I did that for about 1.5 months in Shenzhen. Immediately after which they made me an offer, and then I decided to go to China and spend a couple of years in China just learning about the China tech ecosystem. So up until recently, I kept joking with people. Last 6 years, I have spent 2 years each in India, US, and China, three of the world's largest innovation hubs. And then in 2018 end, I came back. Sequoia was putting together this growth investment team, and they were, and the team was very kind in getting me back. And since then, I've been back in Bangalore. I'm very thrilled about what's going on in India right now.
Yeah, and Tejasvi, you've had a very unique, experience in my view. You worked in India first, then moved to the US. You spent a couple of years in Silicon Valley, and then you moved to China, and you've had the best of the all three ecosystem. And recently, you had tweeted about saying there's so much tech being built in this country. Every sector, every pain point, every product service is being reimagined. This is the reason to be optimistic about India's future. So, give us an overview of the Indian tech ecosystem starting from 2010 to today.
Yeah, sure. The way I see it, see the evolution of tech ecosystem, and I'm one of those who has been very fortunate in seeing the entire evolution starting from 2010, 11. I would say there were three parts, three stages. Maybe 2007 or 8 to say 2011 or 12 was really the sort of the startup phase for the Indian startup ecosystem. Think of the ecosystem as a startup. That was really, you're grinding it out and you're trying to get the seed money and Series A and so on. So that was that phase where it was very, very nascent, fledgling sort of ecosystem. And I think things changed when Flipkart raised that round. If I remember correctly, it was maybe 2014. They raised a round at $1 billion, and that really put India on the map, because people started believing that India could produce large, thriving companies that could scale. And then in my mind, 2014 to 2019 and 20 was what I call the scale-up phase, where it was all about you have found product market fit because there's this $1 billion e-commerce company that is getting built out. There's a lot of euphoria. These were IT kids. It's a classic story of a founder. It's a fairy tale. Like two IT founders worked at Amazon, left their cushy jobs, start a company. It has taken them 6 years to get to $1 billion of valuation, 6 or 7 years maybe. And then so I think that was in some ways the first inflection point for the Indian startup ecosystem. And then the next 4-5 years were all about scaling it up. And I think we scaled pretty well. Thanks to Jio, now we have maybe 600 million monthly active users on internet in India. In 2014, maybe the number was 120 million, if I recall correctly. So this phase was all about scale, and we did well. E-commerce probably is now maybe 40-45 billion of GMV, and the numbers. Payments has 250 million users, and so on and so forth. So I think we did pretty well for in the scale-up phase. 150 million transacting users in India, so we did pretty well. And now I think the next 5 years, starting from 2020, would probably be the phase where you create enduring, long-lasting companies. Sustainability, I think, is at least in my mind is the theme for the next 5 years. Sustainability would mean a lot of these companies going public, like we saw Zomato, and then there's a rich pipeline of companies going public, Nykaa and Policybazaar, etc. And sustainability would mean continuously pushing yourself to get to profitability and being a sustainable company on economics and on viability and so on. So that's how I see it. But I can tell you, Shiva, looking back in 2010, 11, when all of this started, at least for my personal journey started, I couldn't have imagined India being where it is today. It was nearly impossible. I remember we were investing in Byju's classes, and this is 2015. So this is not too long ago, right? This is 2015, 6 years ago. And at that time, Byju's was probably doing 7-8 million of revenues. And then we were making a model thinking, hey, how big will it be in 2020? And we thought it would be $150 million. And I can tell you without revealing the numbers, there are multiple times of what we saw. So I think it was impossible to imagine that the tech ecosystem will be so large, so scalable, and so thriving in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, India ecosystem is absolutely compounding really fast. But we still have a long way to go if we compare Indian technology ecosystem to US and China. What do you think, Tejeshwi? What's next for India, and how can India reach the scale of China, US? What needs to be true?
See, I think scale has three components. Internet scale or tech scale has three components in my mind. One is just the consumption basket, like how much consumption is going on in the country. It could be B2C consumption, it could be B2B consumption. How much software is getting bought out, for example. How much how much food, how much apparel is getting bought out. So that is one component, I think, and that is tightly linked with GDP. As GDP grows, the consumption basket of India will continue to grow. In my mind, this component of growth is a more long-term lever. I think India as a country will hopefully grow at like 6-7% real terms in GDP for the next 20 years, if not 30 years, because we have a long way to go. Our GDP per capita is $2,000. Look where US is, or look where China is today, right? Like $12,000-13,000. So we have a long way to go before we sleep. And then second component is just the penetration of technology. So if you have 100 rupees of, let's say, consumption going on, what percentage of that is being touched by technology, right? Today, all those numbers are abysmal, right? Like e-commerce is probably the oldest tech market in the country, and that is like less than 5% penetration. So it's again in my mind, this is a secular trend. Like this 5% someday will become 50%. We don't know when, but it will happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. It is inevitable. And we are seeing, during COVID, I think US went from maybe 14-15% e-commerce penetration to 25% penetration. I think China is already at 30%, north of 30%. And of course, Indian companies also benefited during lockdown, and companies sort of surged in scale and reach. And third is reach, which is how many people are on internet today. Because if you have only 10% of your population on internet, then you are a small market. If you have 70% of people on internet, and then it's a larger market. That number in India, like we discussed earlier, 600 million monthly active users on internet. I think we'll go to 1 billion in the next 4-5 years. So this lever, so in terms of saturation, so this will give us the hockey stick growth, right? This is like here and now. Next 4-5 years, it is happening. We're going to get to like 80-90% internet penetration. And so, this will drive growth in the short term. Penetration will drive growth in the medium term. Consumption will drive growth in a very, very long term. So I think the tech story in India has not even gotten started. I see, I tweeted maybe a few months ago that the total market cap of Indian tech companies in 2030 will be north of $1 trillion. And if you compound it another 10 years, it'll be $5 trillion, and we'll still be thinking it's day one. So I think it's a long runway for growth for all of us. All of us just need to keep working hard, and hopefully we'll get there.
I couldn't agree more with you on that. And this is such a great lesson for someone, if someone is looking to understand how Indian ecosystem has evolved. And Tejeshwi, I get to ask a lot from a lot of diasporas who are thinking about moving back to India. If they want to move back to India, in the next few months or a year, what do you think they could work on, or the skill set they should optimize on, and yeah, what should be the thought process like?
Yeah, I have a slightly different view on skill sets. I think skill sets are evolving; they are dynamic. I look at my job, right? It has changed a lot. I can tell you, like last 10 years, the job for investor in India has changed a lot. It is a lot more scientific now. It is far more, data driven now. There's a lot more information now than there ever was. So I think jobs keep changing. Skill sets keep changing. Skill sets is a moving target. It keeps changing. But I think the underlying quality. So I focus more on quality, less on skill, because I think if you fundamentally have the right qualities, you will acquire the right skills which are relevant for the time. It may not be relevant 10 years hence, and therefore you'll have to reinvent yourself. I think the fundamental quality that I think makes someone successful or will help them do well in the startup ecosystem in India is curiosity. I think curiosity is very important because, let me tell you, like I spent time in the US and China. India will have its own evolution. So this X or Y thinking or mindset, and it works, but it works only to a certain extent. It doesn't really work. Like Byju, for example, has no comp. Now, if 2015 we thought, we shouldn't invest in Byju because there was no comp in China or US, we would have been massively wrong. And we would have deprived so many, young and bright kids of good quality education, right? So I think fundamentally one has to be curious. Second is hustle. India, let me tell you, is not an easy market to operate in. We obviously work very closely with many of our founders, and India is a tough market, and India has got its own peculiarities. A lot of things that one takes for granted, say in the US, and then maybe to some extent in China, are not that predictable in India. You have to hustle for them. So I think second is, in my mind, is hustle, and third is teamwork, frankly, because all of us need to band together and work together on ideas, work together on projects. teamwork makes the dream work, as people say. So I think teamwork is very important. So I think if you have these three qualities, and if you have, let's say, two or three of these qualities, I think you're good. I mean, India is a land of opportunities. I mean, there's an opportunity everywhere. I'll give you an example. The other day, a few appliances in my house broke down at the same time. What are the odds, right? TV broke down, something else broke down, and then of course you have to call up these appliances company and say, hey, is my appliance under warranty? You don't even know, right? And then you say, and then they tell you, no, it's not under warranty. Okay, send the maintenance guy, and the guy comes and says, "Ye nahi chal raha, this is not working, that is not working." And I was thinking, like, if there could be just an appliance management app which could basically plug into the CRMs of all these appliances companies, and then you go to the app and like it takes your phone number and it tells you the warranty status. And maybe you can also buy extended warranty on top of it. It takes care of all the maintenance schedules. Now this may sound like a third, first world problem, and maybe it is, but I'm just telling you that every day in India is an encounter with a problem. And a problem that you and I know can be solved through technology. And I'll give you another example. We are investors in a company called Moglix. I'm on the board of the company. We work very closely with the founder. They are building an e-commerce or commerce platform for industries. And let me tell you, like 3 years ago, before we invested, I didn't even know such a thing could exist. And just the traction and just the NPS and the reception that they're getting from the market is insane, because the alternative is so broken. Like they'll give you an Amazon experience, Amazon-esque experience. If as a say a factory you want to buy something, and compare this to the alternative, which is to haggle and negotiate with like hundreds of vendors who are many a times not so reliable. They'll send you invoices, like thousands of reams of invoices that somebody in your finance team has to process. So I think problems in India are very, very acute in whatever direction you look at, and therefore I think India is a land of opportunities. So you could come and practically start doing anything in this country, which is totally virgin land.
Yeah, it totally syncs with your tweet, right? You said there's just so many things to be built and so many things to be reimagined, and totally agree with you. The curiosity, the hustle, the togetherness, all three. If you have those three, I mean, you could literally do anything that you want, at some level. And Tejeshwi, would love to get to know you at a deeper level. It could be one or two or three books, that has changed the way you think about, work or life?
So that's a great question. Look, in my life, I feel I have been inspired by people, first people, and second, thoughts espoused again by people, right? So I'm a big fan of reading, biographies, autobiographies, and I'll tell you a few books or a few people that have inspired my life. I think Shoe Dog would be one book. When I was super inspired, I've been super inspired by Phil Knight's journey and the humility with he conducts himself. And if you read the book, it almost makes you feel like, even these successful people who are now luminaries in their own fields are very fragile. There were times when they were shrouded with, insecurity and this uncertainty of whether they will be successful or not. So it makes success feel more real, more approachable, and more human. Otherwise, it just feels like some Superman, some superpower has been able to do something magical. So I think I've been very inspired by Phil Knight's journey, and he's also a big donor to Stanford GSB, and the campus where the altars of my learning was kind of sponsored or funded by him. So I'm grateful to him. Second, I've been very inspired by Amazon's journey. I think I've been reading a lot about Amazon, Amazon Unbound, and a bunch of Invent and Wander, a bunch of books around Amazon. And I've been super inspired by how meticulously, how smartly they have built so many businesses. And if you build, one business, one nice large business, you're considered super successful. Think about Amazon; they've built maybe 4 or 5 large businesses, and it is incredible. I think it is one of the most unbelievable feats in business, in my opinion, ever. And then, so these are people, and there are many more that we can talk about, but these are 2 people that come to mind in books. And then ideas and thoughts that have been espoused by certain people. So I benefited a lot by reading Thinking Fast and Slow. I think it talks about human biases, and that is an area of interest to me because at the end of the day, to be a leader, I think you have to be good at making decisions, and decision making is hard. In the face of so many biases, in the face of so much baggage and history, I think we are all humans, and we succumb to our own psychology, unfortunately. So I think it has helped me declutter my mind, clear my mind, and to the extent we can make good decisions, I think it has really helped me. And then I've been really inspired by Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. I think that is the ultimate book. It is a very short read, so I recommend it to all your listeners, and it is just incredible. And that is something that has, if you ask me if there's one book that has really changed my life or inspired my life, I'd say it is that. At Stanford, the first day, there was a bunch of onboarding, etc., and there was a big basket put somewhere, like in the hallways. No one was paying attention, so I walked to the basket, and then I see these small tags, and these are tags that you can attach to your bag, right? And they're different adjectives, they're different words. And I fished out the word. I still have that tag with me, and the word was meaning. And that's exactly the crux of Man's Search for Meaning. That the ultimate driving force or motivational force for one's life is to find the meaning in life, and that is something that will help you go through the ebbs and flows of life and highs and lows of life. So I think that book has really inspired my life. And finally, sorry, this is a long list, but I really revel in. I don't read like one book every week, but whatever I read, I think I really revel in reading and internalizing, most importantly, the learnings. And the last book which I read recently is called Ichigo Ichi. I struggle to pronounce the name of the authors, but and that book is super interesting. Like I again recommend it to all your listeners. It is about being in the moment. It is about the fundamental premise of the book is the time that you're spending now, like the time that you and I are spending now under these circumstances in this context will never come back. And therefore, it is all about, and it's so apt in the digital world where we are perpetually distracted. There's this notion of being present and bringing your full self, mentally and physically, etc., to what you're doing. I think is a very powerful notion.
Oh, I'm going to read the last one you talked about, and I'm reading this book called The Daily Stoic, and it has some parallels to it. And I have a book for you. I think you'll enjoy reading that since you enjoy reading biographies. It's called Who is Michael Ovitz? And I have your address, so I'm going to gift you very soon. And Tejeshwi, you in your early 30s, and you just got promoted to managing director at Sequoia India. You've had a lot of success, and I'm sure you're going to go a long way. What's something that you struggle with?
Oh, many things. You are just looking at the shiny tip of the iceberg. I can tell you, underneath lies lots of challenges, lots of struggles. I think it's in our job, at least the approach that we take here at Sequoia Capital, we consider ourselves founders behind founders, and which means that it is a double-edged sword. One, that it allows you to play a slightly more involved role than a normal investor would play in shaping a company and helping a company. And we are all cheerleaders by definition. And then it also sort of means that founders sometimes rely on you while making some crucible decisions, right? They are seeking your advice. And sometimes, and you obviously do your best, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And you know that someone is relying on you. They want an objective, best advice. And sometimes it is a struggle because, look, I think building a startup is the most unnatural thing it could do. It's like athletics, right? It's so hard to learn swimming, especially, I tried to learn swimming like 5 years ago. It is terrible. You can't learn swimming at this age because it is an unnatural movement of your body parts. So I think similarly, startup is like athletics. It is very unnatural. It is very hard. So just sometimes that uncertainty and having clear thoughts in the face of uncertainty, I think is very hard. And that's a struggle for, I guess, all of us here in the investor community. And second is, which is more of a personal struggle, I have a very curious mind. So I like to learn and read and know about many different disparate topics, and just managing your time and making sure that you're able to do justice to everything, quenching your desire to learn more, at the same time being able to go deep. I think that's a struggle, honestly. Like, there's so much content explosion. I wish Twitter to some extent does this, but I wish somebody could just scroll the internet and be intelligent enough to tell that, show me or surface all the content that was published that day that I'd be interested in the decreasing order of match. I think that would be a great idea. So I think just keeping it up with the world is a struggle. And then finally, I think sometimes it's paradox. Yeah, just the paradox of what's going on in the startup world, where everything is hunky dory, and then you look at the rest of the country, the rest of the economy, and you just see this vast amount of suffering. I'm sure all of us know of friends who have lost a family member. I know of many friends who have lost a family member, and just reconciling the two is a kind of a cognitive dissonance. It's very hard to reconcile the two. Like, on one hand, we are all celebrating Zomato and rightly so. I mean, so many people have worked so hard to see this moment, and then on the other hand, you see all this suffering going on around you, and some people really struggling. It does raise questions in my mind.
Yeah, and being overly curious, I guess, is a good thing to have, and you're right. Even I compare tech ecosystem of building a company just like as a sport, right? And so, talking about sports, Tejeshwi, last quick few questions: Fed or Nadal?
Of course, Fed, man, any day.
How's your tennis going?
My personal tennis is not going that well. I've not played in a year, maybe, but I plan to pick it up later this year.
Got it. Since you're promoted to managing director, I think you can afford me. When I'm in Bangalore next, I'll give you a lesson. We'll do that.
100%, man, 100%.
And if you could have dinner with anyone in the world, who would that be?
Oh my God, this is incredible. It'll take me like 10 minutes to think about this. I'd probably get dinner with Roger Federer.
All right. Okay, we know you, for the guy in the technology ecosystem, a smart thinker, thoughtful thinker. What do your friends know you for?
My friends know me for who I am. They obviously know far more than all the adjectives you. No, my friend know me. My friends know me as a good friend, and I at least try to stand by my friends during adversity. A few weeks ago, I spent the whole week in Goa, and unlike the first impression that might come to you, it was for a friend who had met with a very bad accident, and I was just taking care of him. So my friends know me for the devoted friend that I am.
A guy people can lean on to. Yeah, that's all. Tejeshwi, it was so good to have you, and thanks a lot for taking the time and walking us through the Indian technology ecosystem. Telling a little bit more about yourself, how you think about things, and and all that cool stuff.
Thanks, Shiva, for having me. And I want to say that what you're doing is incredible. I think there are a lot of people, many of my friends who wanted to come back and who had all these trepidations in their mind, and the content that you're creating and this knowledge base that you're creating, it's super useful and super helpful for people who are making this important decision in their lives. And I'll be very happy to speak with people who reach out to you. If there's someone who's interested in doing something technology, venture capital, I'd be very willing to speak with them and share my experiences in a lot more detail if that's helpful. But I want to say that all of us are very grateful that somebody like you has taken this initiative and is kind of bridging the gap between Silicon Valley and Silicon Halli.
Love it, and it means a lot to me, Tejeshwi. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shiva.